I'm on now, yeah. The Christians that I've been able to been associated with in my life just have been incredible influences in my faith, starting from my parents to the men and women that taught me in Sunday school and then on into life, and my mother and father-in-law as well, and they're a great influence on their whole family, and then the body of people here at the Church of East Ridge. And so, I mean, I've been lucky. I counted a blessing. And then I thought to myself, you know, how awesome is it to be a Christian? I mean, when you look broader than just yourself and your little family, and you look out at the entire world and the billions of people that are in it and the billions of people that aren't Christians, and how awesome is it that God allowed you and me the opportunity to be a Christian. And we were able to accept that. And that is really, when you look at that, and the very few people that have the same opportunities that you and I have had, we got to be grateful, don't we? We need to be so thankful that we're sitting here in church worshiping this morning. And not only in church worshiping, but in church here in America. I mean, that's unbelievable. If you think about how blessed you are just for that one little fact, which is not little, it's huge. If you've obeyed the gospel, you have got Christ's blood on your soul for that day of judgment. Think about how awesome that is. So, you know, when you get up in the morning and you start thinking about that, you have a different perspective. You have a different perspective on life and what your purpose in it is. And then I got thinking about, you know, suffering and Job. And I was teaching that lesson again today. And, you know, Job he's been struck. And all it takes for us to be struck is God to pull back that hedge like he did on Job. And then the devil comes running in. And it can happen. And it's happened to some of us. It's happened to some of you. But hey, you have remained faithful. You're here today. You have not lost your faith and you haven't walked away from God. If you might not be able to read that. Matthew 5:45. For he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and unjust. We're going to talk about suffering and prosperity because, you know, all these guys that came to see him build that Eliphaz, and I can't pronounce the other guy's name, but you know, they are saying basically he suffered. I mean, he sinned. You sin, you suffer. You know, don't you wish it was a little bit, well, I don't think we wish that. I just would think we wish we just had prosperity all the time. Because if we got what we deserved, then we'd all be dead. We'd be dead. You know for a fact. Suffering. 1 Peter 5:10. And after you have suffered for a little while, the God of all grace has called you to his eternal glory in Christ, will himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. So, you know, Adam and Eve first, then Adam, sinned, and therefore death. But see, God knew all that was coming. The day he made Adam, he knew he was going to fall. Because Christ, he had this plan before the foundation of the world. Suffering is part of that. We all have to go through a little suffering to appreciate our salvation. Do you look forward to the day when no more tear will be shed? No more worrying, thinking, stressing. All your stress will be removed. Because suffering plays a role in that, longing for that. If you never had anything bad happen to you, you wouldn't even know you were happy, would you? Is that possible? Is that true? If you never had, think about that a minute. If you never had anything bad happen to you, would you realize you were happy? No, you would not. Because you have to have the contrast to know what the good is. Kind of deep, isn't it? Romans 8, I can't even read that right. Romans 8:18, for I consider the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that is to be revealed to us. You see, we're going to have this glory revealed to us in heaven. Do we look forward to being with God and being in His presence? Do we? I mean, do we really look forward to it? Romans 5:35, there's a question. This is hard, though. It's hard to do some of these things, isn't it? To rejoice in our sufferings. You know what it is? Romans 5:3-5. Oh, my eyes this morning. And not only that, but we also glory in tribulation, suffering, knowing that tribulation produces perseverance, and perseverance, character, and character, hope. Have you been through anything that has shaped who you are? And we talk about, God knew who Job was. And God knew that Job was going to endure all that he was fixing to get, which is a lot. He knows who I am down deep inside me when nobody's looking. He knows who Wayne Weaver is. When Wayne Weaver gets mad and loses temper, he knows who I am. When Wayne Weaver gets his feelings hurt, and he knows who I am. And he knows me. And he knows you. We sometimes don't even know ourselves, do we? We faked it so long we think we're somebody we're not. Is that possible? But when you go through suffering, when you go through tribulation, it not only reveals character, but it shapes your character. I remember one time I held Seth back in 5th grade, not because he wasn't doing well, but even if he was, I would have done it. But he was doing great, in school academically, but his teacher missed like 100 days that year. And he was crying all the time, and I'm thinking to myself, he's going to middle school, he's going to get beat up, tortured, killed, I don't know, but I'm not letting it happen yet. He's not ready. So I held him back in 5th grade. Oh, he was tore up about it, son. He was tore up. He was mad. He was hurt. And I let him go on like that for a few days. Then I finally said, look, son, it's not happening. It's not changing. You got to look at it, and you got to make the best of it. That's all you can do. Well, I feel like, he may have argued this, but I feel like it's one of the best things I did for him as far as his education and all that goes. But it turned out well for him. But what I'm saying is, it shaped his character having to deal with that. It shaped him. And everything that if you take the right approach to it, when you go through suffering, if you allow God to work in your life through that suffering, you'll come out a better person. You'll come out a stronger person. Yeah, are you going to question God through some of that? Sure are. Is it right? No, but it's going to happen to you. You're going to do it. Everybody's human. We're going to say, why? Why you got to let that happen to me? Why you got to let it happen to me? I don't understand. And you're going to pray about it, and you're going to suffer through it. But if you keep holding on to God, and He'll hold on to you, and our character will be changed. And you'll be a better person. And you'll be closer to God. You'll have a scar, no doubt, from the pain. But that'll help you help other people too. James 1, count it all joy, brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. Let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. Yes, sir. Daily Bible readers. So a few weeks ago, I had a lesson we talked about God being our Father. And your father should be the person that has your development in mind. Like a coach, same situation, kind of. Except you can whoop them, and you can't do it when you're coaching. No, so, when you're thinking about it, when you're developing your children, you're thinking about their development, what they need to go through. And it's not all roses. You want to put your children through some trials. You want to. You need to. If you don't want to, you need to. You need to rethink what you're doing. Because you got to stress them a little bit here and there and develop them. Kind of like your students. I used to, if you're teaching and they're not having to think, and it's just, they're writing stuff down without having to think. You got to make them think. You got to expand their mind. You got to stretch them. Same way with your kids, you got to stretch your kids. You got to push them and stretch them so that they can figure out how strong they are and where they can go and what they need to work on and things like this. So God is no different. He is our Father. So he's saying, where do I want, what do I want Wayne to be able to do? I'm going to stretch him right here. It's going to hurt a little bit. This may hurt a little bit. I may have to take the shield of protection off from him and let him go through some bad times right here. You see, because God is our Father, He wants what's best for us, not what's easiest for us. There's a difference. There's a difference. He uses that for opportunities to test us. Sometimes we fail the test miserably, don't we? We failed it. I failed it. I don't like suffering. I hate it, man. I don't like it. I don't do this. I need to work on this. When I get suffering, I get to whining about it to God. I don't like suffering. Nobody likes it. But we need to see it what it's for. It's a chance for us to show our faith. And 2 Corinthians 4, 8 through 10, we are afflicted in every way, but not crushed. Perplexed, but not driven to despair. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Struck down, but not destroyed. Always carrying in the body the death of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may be manifest in our bodies. Are we able to walk the walk of life? I've seen people in despairing situations, a loss of a child, and man, they were tremendous examples of faith. I could not have done it. I don't know what I would do. I can guarantee you, Wayne, we were not strong enough to do that. Not be good about it. I'm not going to give up on God, but I'm going to be upset to the point of, I don't know. I'm just saying, I just don't know how they do it. But these 2 or 3 people I know about, they were tremendous examples. I know some people have been struck down with cancer, like they're going down. They're going to die, and man, they're just so positive, and they show Jesus in their life. Does that not give you strength when you see somebody that re-died, their cancer's come back for the 5th time, and they're fired up for the Lord? Man, is that not awesome? Does that not give you strength? Does it not make you feel little? Yeah, it makes me feel little. But it also makes me have hope that I can have that faith too. Now, what about our prosperity? So suffering is part of our life. It's part of our walk with God. But also prosperity. You should remember that the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you power to get wealth, that He may confirm His covenant that He swore to your fathers as it is this day. The people that are, we're going to read some more about some of these people that are sinners, that are prosperous, that have a lot of money. And be careful how we determine prosperity also. Success, how we judge it. It really is not about money. Money makes some things easier, but it does not make you successful. 2 Corinthians 9:8, and God is able to make, I can't read that, to make all grace abound to you, so that having all sufficiency in all things at all times you may abound in every good work. Sometimes we get feeling good about ourselves, thinking we know something or we have done something. We can't do anything without God. And us as Christians, we should understand that. I mean, we might forget it a little bit, but see, the other people in the world, they think it's all about them. They think it's on their own. And it's not. God gave them the ability to make money or being prosperous or whatever as well. But they don't realize it's God. They think it's them. They think it's on their own. Psalms 128:2, you shall eat of the fruit of the labor of your hands. You shall be blessed, and it shall be well with you. A couple weeks ago we read Hosea, and we reap what we sow. If you work hard, then you will have what you need. If you're lazy and don't work hard, you won't have what you need. That's pretty much a rule of thumb, isn't it? We have a lot of problem with that in this country. People wanting something for nothing. We have a lot of people like that. Sometimes we want something for nothing. It's always good to get something for nothing. Not really. But, yeah, we have a big problem with that. People want something for nothing, and they get used to it. And see, that's our kids, our grandkids, we got to be careful not to teach them that they can get something for nothing. We got to teach them that if you want something, you got to go work hard and get it. We got to have that lesson out there for them. We got to stretch them a little bit. See what I'm saying? You can't just hand it all out like lollipops at the dentist's office. You can't be handing it out. They got to get a little something. They got to give a little something. We're bad about that. We're bad about spoiling. I'm bad about it too. And without faith, it is impossible to please Him. For whoever will draw near to God must believe that He exists and that He rewards those who seek Him. Now, this prosperity gospel that so many of these evangelists are doling out, on the TV and things like that, they're wealthy, buddy. They're rich. Oh, Osteen, he got more money than the bank. Right here, he's basically teaching this. But he's that reward, he's thinking that he's preaching it's financial. It's not always financial, is it? If we seek the Lord, sometimes it may not be financial. We might be rewarded, which is more importantly, spiritually. Do we want to be rewarded spiritually? How spiritually minded are we as Americans, man? Isn't that a good question? I mean, it's tough in America because all we're talking about is getting more, getting more, getting more. Are we spiritually minded? Hey, how's your prayer life, Wayne? Well, it's pretty pathetic. How's your Bible study life, Wayne? Well, it's pretty pathetic. Are we praying? Do we communicate with God? Are we spiritually minded? Are we walking after the Spirit? I mean, what controls our lives? Really? If you evaluate your life, are you spiritually minded? Because here's the thing. See, I've seen people that are spiritually minded. I've seen people in their last few years that hardly ever get out of out of the recliner, and they're reading like 12 hours a day in the Bible. You know why? Because they can see God. They know it's coming. They know it's coming sooner than later, a lot sooner than later. And they want to be ready, you know what I'm saying? I can appreciate that, brother. I can appreciate that to the fullest extent. I mean, they're getting their mind ready to worship. They're getting their mind ready to be in the presence of God. I mean, like, God is here, don't get me wrong. He's everywhere. He's omniscient, and He's omnipresent. But I'm talking about being in heaven, being in paradise. They're getting ready. You know, and what are we? We might squeeze in a 5-minute book reading session here before we fall off to sleep, or a 5-minute prayer before we nod off. I mean, what do we? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we believe these promises as a whole. I mean, there's some people here that are awesome and they're examples, and they probably need to be up here standing before you, teaching you, and giving you their key, what they do in their life instead of me. That's probably what needs to be happening. John 10:10, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it more abundantly. Jesus wants us to have an abundant life. Do we believe that? Do you believe that Jesus wants you to have an abundant life? Yeah. Why I got more money in my bank account? Because that's not what abundant is. Abundance really is how many people can I affect with my life? There's your measure of abundance. How many people can I influence for good in my life? There is a measurement of abundance. Instead of how much money do I have in my bank account, how much money I got in 401k, what's my stock market doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, we have the wrong measurement, wrong ruler for abundance. Abundance really is how many people can I help throughout my life. There's a measure of abundance, isn't it? Why do we have it all jacked up? Huh? Why do we got all messed up? I don't know. Ecclesiastes 7:14. In the day of prosperity be joyful, and in the day of adversity consider. God has made the one as well as the other, so that man may not find out anything that will be after him. It's all part of life. Isaiah 45:7, I form light and create darkness. Calamity. Some even versions, King James says evil. Well, he did create the devil. He didn't make him sin. He gave him the free will to sin himself, but knew it was coming. Throws him down on earth, lets him roar around the earth. He uses that to put us to the test in our nature. Isaiah 45:7. Lamentations 3:38. It's not from the mouth of the Most High that good and bad, is it not? Yes, from the mouth of the Most High that good and bad both come. So, God has created every single thing in this that we can even imagine, really. So we have to understand that when we're dealing with suffering and prosperity. Well, how in the world do we make sense of it? This is the best verse. Some people don't like this verse. And it's true. And this obviously this verse is true. It's the truth. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are my ways your ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. So, some people say, well, I don't like that. I want to know why. Well, Romans says, the clay doesn't say to the potter, I want this or that. The potter gets to make the choice. The question, though, is, where is my faith? Do we trust God? I trust Him as long as everything's going good, don't you? When everything's going good, I got all the trust in the world. When things start going downhill, man, my trust starts wavering a little bit. It's like that skateboard I was on that time. I about killed myself going down the hill. Started shaking. Gets a little shaky when I start going downhill. What about you? My faith gets a little shaky when I start going downhill. That's just the way I am. And the way most people are. I would like to say, no, I'm the Rock of Gibraltar. But I started having a little doubt. But then I read this verse and I think to myself, in the end, that doesn't matter, man. It's nothing. It means not one thing. The only thing that matters is my relationship with God. And the fact that I got Jesus in my life. The rest of it is fluff and really does not matter. It truly does. But we get tore up, bent up, tore up, twisted up, over this world, don't we? That's why we make so many pitiful decisions in the beginning, because we get to loving the world and letting Satan influence our decisions. We're no better than Eve or the Pharisees or the Israelites or anybody else, are we? And the funny thing is, we have the book to read about how bad decisions they make, and then we go right behind them and make the same ones. It just looks a little different. It's because that's who we are. We're people. We're human. And that's why God sent Jesus, to deliver us and raise us up and help us be victorious over our own flesh. Jeremiah, righteous are you, O Lord, when I complain. When I complain. We all have a little complaining, don't we? Sometimes. I would plead my case before you. Why does the way of the wicked prosper? Why does the way of the wicked prosper? Have you ever asked yourself that? Man, I ask myself, why does that guy making the money? I'm better than him. He's pathetic. He don't even believe in God. Why are you letting him make some money? He's an atheist. Put him down. You know, that's kind of my thinking on that. What about you? I mean, am I by myself? Am I on that boat by myself? I don't think so. You know, I think some people think like me. Maybe I'm just crazy. Why do all who are treacherous thrive? Jeremiah's asking, why are you letting them make some money? Why are you letting them win the war? Why are you letting them do this? You plant them and they take root. They grow and produce fruit. You are near their mouth and far from their heart. Lord, you're helping them eat like kings, but they don't even love you. And here I am trying, and you give me nothing. Yeah? You feel like that? Yeah. Look at that house over there, man. That guy, he ain't no good. He ain't no good. We say that, I say it. Shoot. But then God says, thus says the Lord concerning all my evil neighbors who touch the heritage that I have given my people Israel to inherit. Behold, and we're saying, look out. I may let them prosper now, but I'm going to pluck them. In the end, I will pluck them up from their land, and I will pluck up the house of Judah from among them. And after I pluck them up, I will again have compassion on them, and I will bring them again to each his heritage, to each his land. And it shall come to pass, if they will diligently learn the ways of my people, to swear by my name as the Lord lives, even as they have taught my people to swear by Baal, then they shall be built up in the midst of people. But if any nation will not listen, then I will utterly pluck them up and destroy them. You see, because our timeline is not God's timeline. Our vengeance is not the day of God's vengeance. You see, God's going to put a hurt on people. But we need to be grateful He's long-suffering, don't we? Because even though we think we're better than those people, we all are sinners. See, our perspective, is messed up. We think we're better than these people over here. And we're really not. We're not any better. Because sin is a transgression against God's law, and we've all done that. Now, they may do more sin than I do. I don't know. I do quite a bit, I guess. All I know is I need Jesus in my life. And I need to quit worrying about whether I'm better than that person over there, and where that person has more than I have, or less than I have. And start judging myself according to the Bible. That's where we need to go. So, the suffering and prosperity is sold to Eliphaz and Bildad. And they, they're not, that's in their day. That's how they believe. I believe Job is being persecuted because he's done some great sin. And that's the bottom line. They're not changing their mind. And then, we talked last week about Job. He said, you don't even know. I'm blameless, basically. I haven't sinned, and he hadn't. He was a good guy, Job. Until he starts blaming God, he hadn't sinned at all that we know about, except for his youth. He talks about that later in chapter 15. But Eliphaz then accuses Job because he says that. He says, Eliphaz accused Job of being dramatic and egotistical. If you'll turn to chapter 15, and you can read that 1 through 3 and 7 through 10. So then he says again, he goes back to verse 17 through 25, chapter 15. He says, look, man, bottom line, you're a sinner, and you've done great sin, or God wouldn't be letting this happen to you. So he's still, they're hung up. They're not going to change their mind about this. The bottom line is, you've sinned, and you need to repent. Well, he also goes on in verses 20 through 35, but you're fat. Not like overweight, just about like you've been eating off the fat. All your life you've had it made. And you enjoyed it so much that God's bringing you down a notch or two. Bottom line is what he's kind of getting at. So, that just fires Job up more. And he says, you know something? It's chapter 17. You're a miserable comforter. You're a miserable comforter. You don't go in somebody that's suffering and tell them that they are just sinning and they're pathetic and they deserve what they're getting. That's not what you do. That is pretty bad. That's not how you handle somebody suffering. We need to take note of that. Most of y'all would not even think about that. But I ain't going to lie. I mean, that might come across my mind. Because sometimes I think they might need just a little tough love right here. No. When somebody is suffering like that, we got to love them. We got to love them. They don't need tough love right then. They need encouragement. Are you an encourager? Do you encourage people? There are some great encouragers here. Now, like when I walk out here, man, great job. If I did a pathetic job, they're going to come up and tell me I did a great job, and they're going to encourage me. I love that about, here. I love that about this congregation. Y'all are great encouragers, but I would be willing to bet there's some people in this room, in this audience today, that are not good encouragers. You're a discourager by nature, aren't you, some of you? Some of y'all are discouragers by nature, and it is bad. It's bad. Do not be a discourager. Do not be one. It is wrong to be a discourager. Yeah, you think you're doing good by maybe telling the truth or a truth teller, whatever you think you are, but a discourager is not being a Christian. Do not be a discourager. Do not be an Eliphaz. He's an idiot. Anybody that walks in and sees somebody got boils from their head to their toe and laying there crying and screaming and then says, yep, you got what you deserved. You got to quit. You got to repent. That's stupid. Do not be a discourager. You got to be an encourager. An encourager. You must be an encourager to be a Christian. That's part of your Christian character. It should be part of our Christian character to be an encourager. Come on, Wayne, you can do it. I'll help you. Does that mean you shouldn't tell the truth? No. But you got to know when to speak the truth and how to say it. Because the number one thing you got to do is preach the truth. What? Somebody better say it. In love. Speak the truth in love. It's got to come from love. It can't come from a high and mighty. Sometimes in the church we get the high and mighty, don't we? We think we're the only one that's going to heaven. And we want everybody else to know it. That's not the way you win a soul. You got to love them. You can't hate them in the church. You got to love them in the church. Don't be a discourager. I see somebody being discouraged, I'm going to start calling you Eliphaz. Don't be an Eliphaz. What is your image of God? Boom. It can be that way. I mean, he can be whatever he wants. He's a warrior. He's a lover. He's a creator. He's done it all. When you pray to God, you have this image. I do. Oh, man. It's not quite that, but is that it? He looks mad there. Because he's got all these different sides to him, doesn't he? God has all these different facets to his personality. And Job sees some of them. Well, I got some more, but we'll wait. I guess we don't have class next week, do we? We will see you in 2 weeks. Thanks for your presence, and I appreciate you being who you are. Thank you.